Alright, lesson 2.5 is proving angles congruent, and our objectives are to identify angle pairs and prove and apply theorems about angles. So, first, theorem 2.1 is the vertical angles theorem. It says vertical angles are congruent. Vertical angles are angles that are opposite each other, so like here, angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles, so those are congruent. Angle 3 and angle 4 are vertical angles, so those are congruent. Theorem 2.2 is the congruent supplements theorem. It says if two angles are supplements of the same angle or of congruent angles, then the two angles are congruent. So remember, supplement or supplementary means a straight line, so it adds up to 180. So we know that if one angle is a supplement to another, and your other angle is the supplement to that same angle, then those have to be the same because there's only one number that adds up to 180. Okay, theorem 2.3, congruent complements theorem. If two angles are complements of the same angle or of congruent angles, then those two angles are congruent. And remember, complement or complementary means they make a corner. So straight line is 180 degrees, a corner is 90 degrees. Okay, theorem 2.4 says all right angles are congruent. They're all 90 degrees. Theorem 2.5, if two angles are congruent and supplementary, then each is a right angle. Two angles that are exactly the same and add up to 180, well, there's only one pair of angles that do that. It's 90 and 90. Okay, vertical angles. We were talking about these earlier. Vertical angles are two angles whose sides form two pairs of opposite rays. I like to think about they're across from each other on the x. So like I said earlier, 1 and 2 are vertical angles. 3 and 4 are vertical angles because they're across from each other on the x. Okay, adjacent angles. Adjacent angles share a common side. And a common vertex. With no common interior points. So basically, they can share the side and the starting point, that's it. So angle 1 and 2 share this side right here. So angle 1 and 2 are adjacent. Angle 3 and 4 share this side. So those two are adjacent. Okay. The important part of this is to remember that adjacent angles share a common side. Okay. Now, we've got complementary angles. And then we talked about this a little bit in the key concepts. Complementary angles are two angles that are complementary angles if their measures have a sum of 90 degrees. And remember, we said complement corner. They both have a C. Complementary corner. So angle 1 and angle 2 add up to a 90-degree angle, so those are complementary. Two angles are supplementary if their sum, or if their measures, if their measures have a sum of 180 degrees. And we said supplementary means straight. Both start with this. There we go. Okay, those are your angle pairs. So then we need to talk about what a theorem is. A theorem is a statement that you prove is true or false. The theorems we talk about have already been proven true. So a theorem is a statement that you prove is true. A paragraph proof is written sentences, right? It's a paragraph, gotta have sentences, using deductive reasoning. So what we've been talking about. To show a conjecture or a guess, a statement is true or false. Okay, so it's basically you just explaining why you think something is true or false. Okay, let's try a couple examples here. Identifying angle pairs. Name all the angle pairs in the diagram that are vertical angles. So, because all the angles shown are formed by two intersecting lines, angles 1 and 3 are vertical angles, and angle 2 and 4 are vertical angles. Okay, because they're across from each other. They don't share a side. Supplementary angles. Two angles are supplementary if their measure is 180. A straight angle has a measure of 180 degrees, and each pair of adjacent angles in the diagram forms a straight angle. So, these pairs of angles are supplementary. So, we need the ones that form a straight line. So, right here, I've got a straight line. So, 1 and 4. And 2 and 3 are supplementary. Then I've got a straight line here. So 1 and 2 are supplementary. And 3 and 4 are supplementary. Okay. Complementary. Two angles are complementary if their measure is 90 degrees. None of these up here make a 90-degree angle, so there are no complementary angles. All right, example 2, proving theorem 2-1. Proving theorem 2-1. Write a paragraph proof of the theorem 2-1 using the diagram at the right. Start with the given. Angles 1 and 2 are vertical angles. By the angle addition postulate, that's from chapter 1. Oops, they already have postulate here. By the angle addition postulate, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 have to add up to 180 since they make this straight line. And the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 also have to add up to 180 because those make this straight line here. Okay, so by substitution, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3, because they both add up to 180. Using the subtraction property of equality, subtract the measure of angle 3 from each side. You get the measure of angle 1 equals, the measure of angle 1 equals the measure of angle 2 if we subtract 3 from both sides, or angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So we just proved for sure that vertical angles are congruent. In example 3, using the vertical angles theorem, find the value of x. The angles with labeled measures are vertical angles, so we know these two are vertical. Apply the vertical angles theorem to find x. So we know that they are congruent. If these two are vertical, they're congruent. So 4x minus 101 equals 2x plus 3. And we use the vertical angles theorem to know that those are equal. Okay, then all I did here was add 101 over to this side. So that would be the addition property of equality. Alright, so then they subtracted this 2x over to here. So that would be the subtraction property of equality. And then we needed to get rid of the 2 to get x by itself, so the opposite of multiply by 2 is divide by 2. So the division property of equality. Okay, so then you're going to do some check for understanding problems. Number 1, name 2 pairs of adjacent angles in the picture. Remember, adjacent means they share a side. Part B says if EFD is 27, find AFD. So EFD right here is 27, and you need AFD right here. So I would say those are probably supplementary, so that should help you. Recall the proof in theorem 2.1. Does the size of the angles in the diagram affect the proof? Is changing the size of these angles right here going to change whether or not it's true? Refer to the diagram for example 3. So look up here, this diagram for example 3. Find the measures of the labeled pair of vertical angles. So you know x is 52 from example 3. Figure out what those angles are. Find the measures of the other pair of vertical angles, and then check to make sure that the adjacent angles are supplementary. Alright, and that is it for 2.5. Go ahead, get started on those check for understanding problems. If you have questions, make sure you're asking them, and good luck.